everybody, and welcome back to Adobe Live. We are at day 2 with the amazing Amber Asay. Thank you so much for joining us,
Hi.
Amber. How's it going?
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's great. I'm excited to dive into day 2.
I was just saying how much I did enjoy yesterday. I was streaming earlier on with the Sus Ramirez for our Rework It bi-weekly show, and I was talking about our stream yesterday. So hopefully we have so many people sticking around from earlier on. Everyone was very excited and interested about yesterday. And if you're joining us today for the first time, don't worry, we're going to recap a little bit more what we've done on day 1. And of course, you're going to be able to watch the replay of the yesterday session, and of course today as well will be available just below under that schedule on Behance. And if you're watching from YouTube, make sure to head on behance.net/live so we can say hi to you, and of course get all your comments and pass all your questions to Amber from the chat. I can say the amazing Guruval in the chat, Guido, Emme, Laura, Uriel. I love to see the chat already active. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us. So Amber, do you want to start maybe by presenting yourself for all the people that are joining us today for the first time, and then maybe we can recap a little bit of the work done yesterday with the amazing type that you created.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Amber Asay. I am a designer first. I do a lot of branding and brand identity work. I've worked at several agencies over the last 10 years and started my own studio called Nice People. And so I have a small team now of designers, copywriters, developers. We do a lot of brand identity work and a lot of print and digital work as well. So it's really exciting to really focus on branding as part of my career. And it's definitely a passion of mine. So I'm excited to share a little more about the behind the scenes of creating custom word marks and what that looks like, and how to design typography from scratch.
Super exciting. And if you have any questions if you have any questions regarding the work that we're doing, I know yesterday there was a lot of curiosity about, how to modify fonts, how to create fonts. Feel free to pop your questions in the chat. Amber has been super lovely taking care of all the questions, and we're here to help, as I say always, and I'm never going to get tired of saying I love Adobe Live because it's such a wonderful, safe space to learn how to use the amazing creative app and to share everybody's workflow. So I'm really excited to see more. But I don't know if you want to start from yesterday or
Yeah.
a little bit of
So on my screen
recap.
right now, you'll see a few examples that I shared yesterday of some custom typography. And in fact, I could even recap a little bit of yesterday too. Basically where we ended up. I'll go open up that file, in fact. So we ended up doing these 2 logos for this brand and a client of ours called Camp, sharing how to do these custom word marks from scratch, and kind of putting them within context with images to kind of help bring it to life and start to see it in context. So that's where we landed yesterday. And today we'll work on a couple of other projects and projects for actual clients, which is always fun. But before I dive into that, I did want to talk more about wordmark design, logo design. I even put together a quick page of some of my favorite logos of all time. I'm sure there's tons more that I can think of, but these are probably some of the most immediate ones that come to mind. And the thing that I like about these is it's obviously not identifiable as a font. So I'm not going to look at one of these and think, I know exactly what font they're using, and I want to use that font too to create that same logo. What they're doing is they're creating completely custom typography and word marks. They range anywhere from monograms to full words, from script to serif to sans serif, and they become very iconic, and they do a lot for the brand in terms of creating that identity and making it memorable as you see it again and again and again. And so that's the goal here, is to create something that's completely custom and that brings in a little bit of character into the letter forms themselves. And essentially when you do that, that creates that memorable part of the brand.
Yes, and I can see in the chat, Michelle, we were just talking about it earlier. I'm so glad that you managed to make it. She was very curious to see your project, Amber. So Michelle, thank you so much for joining us. And of course, everybody else that is joining in. I can see Shauna. Shauna is an amazing streamer and illustrator, and I believe she uses a fresco mainly in her work. I think also Photoshop. So Shauna, thank you so much for joining us. It's lovely to see you. Also, my mom in the chat, Amber, you're gonna know.
Hi,
Mom. my mom and dad love using Adobe apps. They are like 70 years old, even a little bit older than that, and they love Photoshop and Lightroom. So they got a lot Lightroom on their mobile, and they try to follow Adobe Light as much as they can.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I don't think my parents would ever know how to open and use one of these programs. So,
well, Amber, they don't even speak English, so I don't know how far. But they definitely have fun here. So fantastic. And let us know, everybody, where you are tuning in from. I'm actually based in Manchester, UK, and Amber, you're in LA, correct?
Yeah, I'm in LA.
Super cool.
So yeah, this is just kind of a quick glance at a few of my favorite logos. And in fact, one thing I was thinking we could work on today is a project that I'm already working on. It is this is the logo that we'll be working on modifying. So this was presented to the client early last week. She already sent feedback, and now I'm going to dive into modifying this to according to her feedback. So this was a custom drawn logo, and it is for a jewelry company. She primarily does rings, especially for engagement and wedding rings. And so the logo that was created here, you'll see there's a couple of details in here. Some of the details were the K and the R were created out of the same structure, the same bones, I guess you could say. And the S and T and I, kind of like a 3-letter ligature. I'm not sure if that's allowed or not, but I did it. You don't see a whole lot of 3-letter ligatures lately. I mean, sometimes maybe like an FFI ligature, but then there's also a double F ligature in this one, and a lot of similar nuances. And then this S and this C both have kind of a little bit of a curve to them. And so she loved how this turned out. And to kind of walk you through a little bit of what this branding presentation looked like, this is a monogram that was created out of the actual K and C from that word mark, but now overlapped and created it in a way that makes you think of wedding monograms and something that feels a little more vintage. And then putting together a whole page of secondary marks with that word mark and with that monogram, and then color. I know that was a conversation that we had a lot of yesterday, but here's kind of an example of bringing that color palette into the logo and the identity and showing how that would look as you bring it all together. And then something that I walk clients through with this is I talk them through this idea of a responsive logo. We're so used to the idea of responsive website design, and I think it can also be applicable to logos themselves. So we need logos across different touch points, across different materials and sizes too. And so a full lockup might not necessarily be able to be, you know, a favicon on a website or a 16 pixel by 16 pixel little mark. And so it's important these days to create an identity that has flexibility and that can be responsive. And so you'll see here, this is what it would look like if we added jewelry just as an identifier. Also adding Roman numerals, showing when the company was established in 2007, showing a stacked version. I always think that's important to show both horizontal and stacked versions. Showing a fuller lockup with the monogram with a circle, and then even a monogram without a circle, because you might need all of those scenarios. And then going through the rest of the presentation, pulling in this idea of pattern and texture play, and starting to bring in photography to start to see it in context and to see what the brand would look like potentially out in the world. And even showing typography along with the logo. So here's that custom logo or word mark at the top, and then bringing in a headline font into play to show that these could live together and what that would look like. And then having that little monogram as a sign off in the corner of the layout.
So gorgeous.
And then I always like to show it on Instagram too. So, so here's what that little monogram would look like if it was their profile picture.
Super beautiful. I think that everybody's loving the gradient and the pattern, the texture. I don't even know how to define it because it's so textured. There's so much depth in those colors and the way that the gradient is distributed. That's absolutely beautiful. Really gorgeous works. Very, very elegant. And I was thinking like, you know, as soon as I saw the monogram, it just made me think of something that is maybe like engraved or, you know, like I definitely think of metal. And I'd love to see all this bronze color because it really speaks to, I don't know, just thinking of like some jewelry piece already.
Yeah. Like you can see this monogram engraved into the metals themselves. And a lot of the creative brief behind this brand was she wanted it to feel like more of a colorful jewelry brand because she does have a lot of colorful gems and diamonds, and so that color is really important and a big part of her brand. And so we wanted to make sure that the rest of the brand reflects the products themselves. And so that was kind of the thinking behind a lot of this. So if we're to dive in, here's kind of a behind the scenes of that messy Illustrator art board. Now you guys get to see all of the messy work behind all of this and behind creating those monograms and thinking through. There were a few initial ideas here of putting a bunch of glittery diamonds around the monogram, but I didn't love how those looked anyways, and I thought it was too distracting, so I ended up liking it in a circle. There was even a couple of plays here with making the stem of the K tall and reaching the ends of the oval. So all sorts of fun here.
Always appreciating a K.
Yeah, we're doing that K thing again.
Totally taking notes. I'm like, you're sketching on the side. I really love your work, and thank you so much for sharing the behind the scene. I think that's, you know, a wonderful way of sharing a workflow, because usually when we see a portfolio, when we see a final piece or a shared artwork that is already done and dusted, is everything super clean and super sharp. So it's so important to share with everybody, either someone that is already a professional, but most importantly with beginners as well, the true real behind the scene.
Yeah. So I have some of her notes here. One thing that she brought up is she loves, excuse me, she loves these letters in general, but she said that she wants them to be wider. So essentially, she didn't like that they were a little more on the condensed side. So basically wanting everything to live within more of like a perfect box. So that's what I'm going to work on today with you guys, is how to modify these letter forms to create a much wider letter. And then another thing that she pointed out is she loved the ends of the N, and she wanted them to be pulled out even more and to have a little more, to be a little more dramatic and noticeable. So we'll be working on that too. And then another thing she said is she loves the C, excuse me, and she wants to see how that could look if the O mirrored the C.
Very interesting. Yeah, it's very, very elegant. I think that all those shapes that you've integrated within each single character really bring out a lot of the personality of the brand.
Yeah. So that's what we'll work on today. So real quick, I think one thing that I might do, let's see. I might go back to one of these older versions and actually grab that T that's not combined. Let's see, where did I put that?
And in the meantime, Amber, while you look for the T, I want to remind everybody that today we're going to be having a artist spotlight. So towards the end of the stream, we're going to feature an amazing artist. Really look forward to give her a shout out and look at the portfolio. So stick until the end, because we're going to overlook some amazing artwork as well. And if you want to share your own portfolio or suggest any artist that you would like to see featured here during the artist spotlight, there is a little tab on top of the chat. If you're on behance.net/live, you're going to be able just to click on the little tab and to submit the portfolio. Again, feel free to name yourself and name any designer or artist that you think is definitely need to be featured here on Adobe Live. We're always super excited to see all these beautiful works that are here on Behance.
Yeah. Yes. I'm so excited about the spotlight. Mm-hmm. So let's start with this K then. So essentially I'm going to extend it, and I might actually separate all of these. So this older version that I grabbed, it actually is even more modified than this one. You'll notice that this was a thicker version that I had ended up thinning up a little more with the final one. So I'll have to get a little creative with going back and editing some of these things. But one thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to see the actual idea of these living in a box might be too wide. Like when I think about extending this out, just selecting half of the K with my direct select tool and then widening that out, it does feel very wide. So I'm probably going to cheat it and make it appear to be like they're more square, but maybe not every letter will live within the same exact box. And so I'll probably go out to somewhere around here. And another thing that I can do is I can make this a guide. And then that way I've got I can use this as a guide, and it helps as I'm working on this too, to even notice with my guide, oh, the top of this K actually wasn't even lined up with the other side too. So clean
Do you
that
use
up.
the shortcut to transform the shape into a guide?
Yeah, I used, well, I didn't use a shortcut. I forgot what the shortcut was. I ended up using, I right click on it. Here, I'll create this one again.
I think the shortcut is Command 5, but I was really interesting to see
yeah, that's
what your
right.
process was.
So Command 5 makes it into a guide, but you can also right click and then make it a guide.
Perfect. Super cool. I think I've missed that. That's why I asked you, because I was like, what just that happened?
But you reminded me of the shortcut because I totally forgot about that. So now that I made that wide, it also did some funky things to this side. So I'm going to clean this up and make that middle section thinner again. So that's feeling pretty good for the K. One thing that I also might do is, because this area is really long when I extend it out, I might save this version, pull it off, and I think I might even bring this midsection in a little more and let the leg, this bottom leg, do some of the work in being wider as well.
I love the way that you talk about each character. I think like you really describe it as if they are like a character, like a almost like their personality, you know, and how each different part of the character contributes within the personality of the overall shape.
Yeah, it's true. Like typography really does have personality. You can kind of think of it that way. Like each letter has a very unique structure and personality that comes with it.
I think you're really showing that. Like I'm super, I don't even look in camera because I'm just like really looking in at your work. And also we have a couple of questions, Amber. So Laura was really loving the F and the S and was wondering if you could please show us how did you make them, and especially focusing on the rounded wavy ends. And also Jenna would have loved to see the full logo presentation. So those are the requests.
Oh yeah.
For now.
The logo presentation we just walked through. Should I walk through it again, or?
You can do first the letters or then the presentation. Up to you.
Okay.
Whatever you prefer. We got okay. Time for now still. So.
Yeah. So for the letters T, or the T and the F, were actually created out of the same kind of blocks. So one thing that I did here was I created this initial stem of the T, and then I created the T. I can pull this one out. So what it essentially was creating this block. And when I create the block, it comes with those 4 anchors on each point, but then now I'm actually going to add an anchor. So with my pen tool, I add an anchor to the bottom here that I can bring up. But instead of having a sharp corner, I'm going to use my, what is this tool called? The anchor point tool, where I can create or bring out the ends here, so that way the curve stays with me when I go up. And then I can even modify this curve a little more, depending on how sharp I want it to be. So that was basically how that T was created, to create more depth. And then I created the F. So whenever I do this, I let some of that initial work. I like the repetition in letters too, so that it feels cohesive. But then I also like that it does some of the work for me. So I ended up taking that T to create the F. So I can erase or delete this part. When I do that, I take the eraser tool and then I hold down Option to create just like a nice clean cut erase, basically. And then I have that to work with when I create the F. And then I basically, using that smaller point as a guide, then the bottom part of the F can be the same width as my narrow points, basically. So yeah, that's kind of how it went. And then as I did that, I realized I kind of liked the idea of bringing this down to being the second part too. And so then when I created that double F ligature, doubling that up, and then I actually ended up extending this whole thing as part of that ligature, because then it felt like it was one, or felt a little more duplicated instead of having this kind of chunky part here, if that makes sense. It's like whenever points come together, they tend to create like a visual weight or heaviness that you don't want your eye to go to. And so once I noticed that and realized I don't want my eye or people's eyes to go to this section, then I modify it and make it thinner so that way it can be less distracting.
Super cool. I was just saying in the chat, Laura, thank you so much for this question, because I thought that it was super interesting. And I think that she was also interested to the S. Yesterday, we were saying that the S are the one that usually cause a little bit more of extra work. But what is your favorite letter to make?
Me?
Yes.
Oh, I mean, I'm loving the Ks we've been doing yesterday and today.
Couldn't be happier.
I think R's are my favorite because I love, K's and R's are probably my favorite, because then I love to work with that leg, that extra leg too. I think I like a lot. I like a lot of the structured ones. O's can be fun too. So with S's, the S's are the most difficult. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you. Just real quick, I wanted to give a shout out to your social media, because we have a question regarding where are you most active on social. So it would be Twitter or Instagram, which is the best way to connect with you on social media?
I'm more active on Instagram. So you can either follow my studio at Nice People, or you can follow my personal Instagram at Amber AC.
I'm going to share it with Uval as well, so we can have it in the chat. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So with the S, sometimes it's really hard. And after playing around with creating an S or figuring out how to do a good S, I end up cheating it. And sometimes I grab an S that feels the most like the other letter forms I've created and drop that into place. And so I'll usually look around at different fonts and figure out what S matches what I'm doing the most, and then modify it from there. So I think that's kind of an easy, quick way to do S's, especially for someone like me who's not a type designer. I didn't go to type school to learn how to design S's. And I feel like those are my biggest weakness, because sometimes when I do create an S, even if I'm just doing it from a pen tool and putting all those points in there, it ends up being pretty inconsistent is the thing. So this is kind of, here's kind of a quick S thing. So I end up, once I do that, then I end up cleaning my anchors a little more just to make sure everything lines up better. And one thing that you can also do is you can study the anchors of fonts too. So when you outline them, those anchors will stay intact from a font. And so once you study where type designers are placing their anchors, it's also a nice way to know. Like I've noticed in S's, they always have 2 anchors in the center here. And that usually helps. And then adjusting a lot of these handles on the anchors so that they meet up or line up basically, and that they aren't creating these other awkward waves or, so it's like, it's a lot of push and pull. And usually with an S, you also want it to be heavier on bottom, usually, depending on what rules you want to break or bend. But if I want, usually you want the S to be like, I might even extend this one out a little, extend this belly out a little, bring it up, and then clean it up from there. So that way it's actually doesn't feel top heavy that way. It's all about gravity. We're used to the gravity of our own bodies and thus the gravity of letter forms themselves.
So interesting. And in the chat, Michelle is saying the balance for the S is so hard. We were talking about it yesterday.
Is. Yeah. So that's kind of like a quick guide into creating that S. Sometimes I still don't love it, no matter how much I nudge all these anchors and play around with it. Then sometimes I'm still like, ugh, I hate it. And then I look for an S and I cheat it and find an S from a font, because at the end of the day, it ends up looking much better than the ones that I've created.
Do you ever use the smooth tool when you create curves like this?
The smooth tool?
Yeah, and if you never use it, don't. Yeah, I just like asking, because I think that will help you just to fix the smoothness of the curve.
Oh, where's that?
So if you head on the pencil tool and then you click and hold on the toolbar, and if you click and hold, it should reveal some hidden tools. And
smooth.
Yeah. So if you need to select your letter first. Sorry, I should have said that a little earlier. So you need to select with the selection tool, and then go ahead and then just almost paint over, like almost if you want to smooth a curve and paint it over all over the curves.
Oh.
What it does, it just smooths the entire curve. So what I will do usually, I will go over the curve and I'll like almost paint over it, as if you're like with a pencil on the curve, and automatically will adjust the anchor points and the curves as well. When I discovered it, really changed my life. Like you don't have to worry about the anchor points. You just go on the path. And sometimes it's just a minimal difference, but it really balances the 2 handles in between the anchor points. And to me, is a lifesaver, because I'm not really good at creating curves. So I thought to give a shout at the smooth tool, because it deserves it. It's super helpful.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay, that I'm going to use that more too, because I love that. But yeah, like for example, this edge here starting to get a little flat to me. And so it's hard just figuring out and adjusting and making sure it doesn't feel so flat. And then I will then take my width tool, for example, and then start to come in. And when I double click, I can constrain the existing widths, double clicking and hitting OK. So then I know those ones are already in there and constrained, and then I can go in and thicken some of these other points.
We have a question from Val asking, Amber, what do you struggle with the most in your process, and how do you overcome these difficulties or that difficulty?
Oh, what do I struggle with the most with my process? That is a very good question. Wow, I've never thought about that. I mean, obviously the S that we were talking about is my biggest struggle. And I was talking about this yesterday too. I'm not the best sketcher, so I go right to Illustrator, unless I'm trying to work through something that I really need to explore by hand first. But otherwise, I'm not good at drawing, and so I can't just draw the logo that I want, scan it, bring it in, and it's perfect. And then now all I have to do is trace it with the pen tool, which would be so easy. Like I would love that process, but because my sketching is so limited, I just skip that process entirely.
Thank you so much for sharing. And let us know in the chat as well. I think that Val, you brought up a very, very interesting process and interesting question regarding difficulties in the process. So I would love for everyone to share, like, you know, what they found hard, what they're looking to improve. And of course, feel free to ask any question. Me and Amber, we're here to answer to your questions. I'm sure Amber is giving us already so many wonderful tricks and tips on how to create these beautiful letters. And I'm learning. Literally, we've been taking notes and like I've been sketching while you were drawing on the case. I got a little K page now with a wonderful font that you were sharing yesterday.
Oh, good. Are you good? Are you pretty good at sketching?
Oh no, I mean sketches for as a note, no sketches a full illustration. I never developed a pencil paper relationship. The only time that I sketch is still gotta be digital. So before I was using Adobe Draw. Now I've drawn an entire book. I've published an Illustrator book with plants. So I draw all my plants directly on the iPad. And of course, now we have the wonderful Illustrator for iPad, which is even easier. So we can jump between the desktop and the iPad. But I'm not a paper person. I done marketing and PR before getting into design. So I can either spray walls or get on a computer or get on a screen. So I completely feel what you were saying before.
Yeah. Yeah. When you know your limitations, then you just work around them and you figure out a new solution. Or you can push through those limitations and get better. So
absolutely. And something that I found really interesting is when you were talking about the square and the fact that you were deliberately choosing different shapes for the letters, which I think is a fantastic sense of freedom from constraint. That's something perhaps that I struggle with. I give myself rules and then I forget to break them, you know? So it was really liberating when you were saying, hey, I'm doing squares, but not everything has to be the same shape. So what it matters is that how successful the letter is and in the production. So I was really enjoying that.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. So as I'm creating this R and modifying it, I'm also realizing that I want it to be similar to the K. So I just switched the K to be a guide as well, so that I can bring everything up to the height. I want to make sure that it mirrors it as much as possible. So I'm kind of bringing up the all of these points, getting in real close.
Really zooming in.
Yeah. Some like micro action happening over here.
And we
bring
do
this out.
Let's see, there was a question from Amanda. Do you look to infuse deeper meaning into your word marks, or are you more focused on the look and feel and reserve the deeper meaning to the business for marks and other elements of the brand? That's a good question.
Yeah. So the deeper meaning behind this one too is this brand in particular, it wants to be a very good balance between elegant but modern. So not being too vintage and too old and too fancy, but bringing in an element of modernism into it. So ultimately, it came down to doing something that felt a little between a mix of sans serif and a serif, or more of this high contrast sans serif style. And so bringing in these wider form, the thicks and thins into this to bring that elegance into it. So it's not so structured, because the rings themselves that she has are very nuanced. And when you look and study some of the product itself, I think sometimes that helps to bring inspiration into actually creating the work and the logos and finding inspiration in those. And so one thing to point out, like, let's see, do I have, I could even show you a quick look at her jewelry. So we'll just do a quick Google images. So she has these rings that are all there. A lot of them are very oval shaped, and lots of details and lots of curves too. And so it's not like a minimal modern jewelry company where it's just a metal band and a single diamond. There's some details and nuances to it. And so I wanted to bring that nuance into the letter form. So instead of creating something that was a very simple sans serif logo that wouldn't look like her work at all, it was about kind of bringing in the intention and style behind her work. Since she's such a good jewelry designer, I wanted to make sure that the logo reflected her jewelry design.
Wonderful. I'm just like looking at rings here.
Yeah.
Very captivating shine. Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm just over here basically nudging a lot of these letters to be wider. And as I do this, I might also, it's kind of a starting point right now. So I might, at the end of doing all of this, I might end up looking at it and thinking, oh, a lot of these are too wide. I'm not sure if I like how wide some of these went. And like, for example, the K and the R don't need to be quite as wide as the N. And my N is already wider than the K and the R too. So I'm going to let this N be a little wider than this box that we're designing to.
And Amber, we have a question which I was also thinking earlier. Taylor is asking, Taylor saying, I'm intrigued by Amber's panel setup. It's very unique workspace. There is any reason why you have this particular setup?
I don't always need this panel, so I could get rid of that one. But I always like my colors here for some reason. I always have all of my typography set up in one panel. So from paragraph to glyphs to characters, things like that. And then I also do some of my like vectorizing at the bottom, Pathfinder, and sometimes my stroke will be down here, gradient. So I put as much of my colors in here, but sometimes I need my gradient to be separate from my colors because then I can drag and drop. And then usually over here is like everything else. So having my properties panel is always important to me. And then if I need to jump into layers, which I don't typically need to do, I have that. And any other, that's kind of like properties and then some lives over here.
Super cool. Very interesting. I love I just think that having the colors up there looks so cool.
Good.
It just brings that element of color within the gray of the workspace.
Really a lot of these colors were what were part of this project too. So now I've got like all of these really interesting colorful choices. So one thing that the client sent, and I would say this isn't normal either. So it's nice that she did a little digging herself, but she said she really liked this N and the fact that it had wider feet. So
almost looks like a tilted Z, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's true. So now I'm going to pull these feet out a little more so that it's doing kind of this similar thing. I might even pull it from this side too, because one thing that I don't like that this N is doing is it's probably living on a perfect edge, but there's an illusion happening. And that illusion is, it looks like bowed feet or like they're going inward. So what the illusion is creating is it's making it look like it's doing this, but it's not. It's actually living on a straight edge, and it's because the illusion of the curve on here is doing that. And so I still want the feet to be wider, but I think what really has to happen is both sides have to go out so that it feels balanced underneath it.
That's super cool. It did a real, like it felt almost like a fisheye on the letter, but that's so cool.
Oh yeah. It's kind of like when you take an image of yourself up close and your nose looks huge.
Yeah. But thank you so much for showing us. Lot of appreciation. So Sabrina say that she appreciates so much learning from you. There's so lovely comment about your work here. Taylor,
thank you.
Intrigued. And we have Richard saying that amazing seeing your work. And I mean, I can name so many throughout. We're absolutely loving your work, and I'm here as well, loving it.
Yeah, if you're a type nerd, then you'll especially love this because I'm just nerding out over type today and yesterday. So
sounds great.
So yeah, just nudging things here or there. So exciting. We're not making any huge moves here. It's all about the subtleties of typography. And really at the end of the day, creating something that's memorable and iconic.
So I'm reading the comments. There is a lot of sharing. I think that the question that Val was asking before in our conversation are like sparking different experience, which is wonderful. And as I say, like, feel free to ask any question you may have. We're always super happy to discover a new thing. There is no right, no wrong questions. I'm learning all the time from the questions that I can see in the chat. Alexandra was sharing her experience, saying that we were talking about sketching before, and she's saying that I used to sketch a very detailed sketchbook draft before taking the illustration and design into the computer, but lately I haven't. Now my sketches are a vague scribble that only I can understand. I feel you. That's how I do. That's what I do.
Yeah, that's true. And sometimes sketching is nice at the beginning because especially if you're like a beginner in design, I think it's important to do some of that sketching to discover and figure things out with your hand. But once you've done it a bunch and you got really familiar with it, then I think sometimes you know where you're headed or you know what you want to do. And just from experience, and you're able to jump right into design. So I'm widening all of these letter forms, and while I'm doing it, I'm also trying to make sure that I'm not making these too thick. So basically, instead of taking the logo that we had and widening it out this way, because then it's creating all of these warped shapes. And so that's why what I'm doing right now is pulling a lot of my anchors to widen it. and taking half of it and widening it in the center. But I might also widen a little bit of these stems, just so that it helps not make the center feel so wide too. And I also want to make sure that all of my stems in the process are equal width too. So this eye, for example, like as we saw yesterday, I was duplicating a lot of these things as I was creating them. But now that I'm modifying each letter, I'm going back and making sure that they're staying consistent.
We have a question from Chris asking, have you ever designed an original font?
No, I haven't. So that was one thing we talked about yesterday was I'm not a type designer, and I focus mostly on brand identity work. And so I've never actually created a font and don't know how to. One thing we talked about yesterday, though, was Fontself, the plugin. And I ended up downloading it last night. I was like,
Oh,
okay,
great.
I'm dying to see what this is all about. And it was pretty cool. So now I have it in here, this like Fontself maker.
Oh, feel free to show us, because it's so easy to use. I just think that the reason why I mention it is because you can really take the power of Illustrator and vectors, and few seconds you created your font. So yeah, feel free to show it off.
Yeah, like I just I guess in the tutorial it was saying that I can just select letters, and then let's see, I'll hit new, and then I can just drag it in. Did that work?
Yeah, usually you just have to wait a second, it loads. And then you gotta, yeah, perfect. Identify which
and then
keyboard.
I identify that's a capital K. So exciting. And then supposedly it can read it for me, but I'd have to have a full alphabet and select 26 objects. And then I could drag it into the full alphabet one. But since I'm just doing one letter at a time, then it looks like then that's how I identify them. So yeah, it's kind of cool. So if I wanted to create a full font out of this, then I could. Oh yeah, and then is it save or oh wait. Oh, install. It's install, I think. And then you name your font, and then I believe it'll save it as, I think, an OTF file or TTF. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so just a quick reply to Jillian asking what is Fontself and where I can get it. So first and foremost, the amazing Voodoo Val has already placed a link in the chat. So make sure to head to behance.net/live, and you'll be able to click on fontself.com, which is the website in which you can download this phenomenal plugin, very useful to transform your vector shapes and your vector letters into a live font. Amber is just showing us amazingly how all you have to do once you create your letters to drag it into the panel once you have downloaded the plugin, and it would just basically be a panel like every other panels that you have in your workspace, and you will be able to find it under, I believe, window plugin once it's installed. And it will allow you to transform your letters into a font. You can share them and you can use them in any document. And of course, what I do usually is to add them into a library, so they will be ready to be used throughout your Creative Cloud apps.
Yeah, so now I'm so glad that you guys brought that up yesterday, because now I feel like it opens the world, because I was not ready to dive into some of these font making programs and figuring all of that out, and just haven't had time to. And so now I feel like this is just a really nice beginner's like automated way to create them. So I could definitely do that, like especially if I want to create an entire typeface for a client, which I haven't done before, but that would be really cool to start to bring that into play.
Fantastic. And Michelle, like I see here in the chat, we were actually, that's such a coincidence. Me and Michelle were messaging on Instagram. She joins really often all the Illustrator creative challenges. She participates on Discord and on the live. So we do interact on Instagram as well. We're talking about font. So it was literally the same morning that we were discussing about font. The question sparked from Michelle. So I actually mentioned it because of you, Michelle. So thank you so much for asking. Everything is useful to share with everybody. And Amber, I think that I mean, even if you don't create a font, just having the possibility, you create so many beautiful pieces of type that, you know, it's so easy to drag them in there in the panel, and even to give it to the client, you know, like to make sure maybe that they can just use the initials or something like that. I just think that'd be, so you don't have to give the Illustrator file, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Or one thing that I've done in the past is if a logo that I created didn't get selected or approved, or they didn't go with that direction, then I'll sometimes just go into those old files and create them. But I'm assuming if I did it with Fontself, then I can go into a new, basically into a new document and have those letter forms that I already created for another project and bring them in.
Totally. And I think that with that plugin, because what we were talking about yesterday was the difference of being just like, you know, designer in terms of designing logos and brand and trying to convey the personality, which you're showing in a fantastic way, and the difference of the more rigorous type designers. And what I loved about Fontself, it just give you the flexibility to not necessarily be a font creator, because I'm definitely not. I mean, the type that I created are pretty blocky, and they're very geometric and colorful, so they don't look like the classic fonts. And I think that you have that freedom, especially with these beautiful flares and this beautiful ligature that they're using as well, to really have them as an actual font. Imagine typing those ligature right away from the glyphs. Super cool.
Yeah, that would be amazing. So yeah, I'm just redoing this O just because it'd be easier to make a perfect circle than to try to modify or widen this one. And then she talked about wanting it to mimic the C. So the C has essentially this tilted axis is what it's called. Basically kind of like in calligraphy where your pen might be tilted when you're creating letters. It's kind of like that idea. So having a tilted axis C's or O's can be part of the strategy if you want to do a subtle nod to like old world typography or older things like that. And so I think having those in here would be applicable. And I think her feedback on that is right on, because there is kind of a vintage quality about her jewelry. And so I basically want these I want this letter form to feel both modern and vintage at the same time, which is kind of what her jewelry does. So I'm going to create a tilt there, and then I'm going to remove that old O. And I might actually just, let's see, I might actually just recreate the C out of this O too, so that they feel a little more cohesive. I might tilt this a little more.
I'm tilting my head, you know, like when dogs.
Yeah.
I'm literally like, I'm doing that. And by the way, Val was sharing few useful links in chat. First of all, we talked about the Illustrator Creative Challenge. For those of you that are not familiar with it, the creative challenges are in Illustrator, Photoshop, XD. I believe, I'm not sure if there is anything with video as well, but you can go and check just below us. There is a schedule where you can check all the amazing streams with the creative challenges, which are a fantastic way to learn Illustrator. And of course, we have Discord, which is our wonderful community that you can join simply by clicking on the link where you can share your work, talk with our international community of designers. We have pretty much like a mix of beginner, professionals, and of course, we have the mentors that are there to help you if you have any questions or if you would like any feedback on your design. So make sure to join Discord on Adobe Illustrator. It's a great way to learn together. And before, sorry, since I already interrupted you, Amber, I wanted to give another shout out to remind everybody to stay tuned, because in half an hour, we will be starting the artist spotlight. So in about 30 minutes, we're going to be showcasing an amazing artist. We're going to look at the portfolio, and very, very exciting time. And Amber, I will probably borrow 1 minute of the time before, or maybe after the spotlight, to share, because someone was asking in chat, a new project for beginners in Illustrator just came out. The work that I've done with the amazing team at Illustrator. So it's a game to learn how to use the main tools in Illustrator. So I'm probably gonna share that as well afterwards. I don't remember, I think a few people asked in the chat, so I just hope that I remind myself to do that.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I am modifying this C so that it feels a little wider than before, and also trying to recreate it from this O so that it feels a little more rhythmic in that sense, more repetition.
And we have more questions. So I think there was a question that I saw before regarding your inspirations. In the meantime, Val was also asking, okay, so Jessica was asking, what website does Amber go to for type inspiration? And also Val added, which designers do you favor?
Oh, so yesterday we were talking about typography. I definitely look to type designers for typography inspiration. There's a lot of really great foundries out there, and people that do that all day, every day, is creating typography and typefaces. And so I'm very inspired by typography, and I'm on Pinterest a lot, and I just save a lot of that stuff too. So I'm constantly saving old references, new references, or whatever I can find. And then it's helpful because then when I go into a project like this and I really want to look back at, some of those references, I might have saved a really cool C, for example, or a cool logo that had a cool C. And I think doing that helps me to go back and use those pieces of inspiration that I saved way back when. So I'm constantly looking wherever I go. Like even when you're walking around and you see old signage, or a lot of people are scanning old type specimens from old print shops and things like that, then that's kind of a fun way to also have a few more older references in your back pocket, because then you can create something that's even more original, or that hasn't been done recently, or something like that. Because sometimes I like to pull from older references like that, especially when I want to create something that feels unique and different and isn't based on current trends, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And Golden say that it's going to give me a gentle reminder. I'm sorry, I'm like mesmerized about Amber's work. So yeah, feel free to give me a shout out if I forget. I'll be very happy to talk about it. But those types. And I think the fact that you work on the details so much, like, it is really magnetic. You know, like I don't have a great eyesight as well, so I'm really, you know, really looking into the details myself, because I think it's beautiful to see how just one vector point can make such a dramatic difference in a design.
Yeah. Yeah. And like sometimes if a vector or if one isn't working for me, then I might just like redraw it or delete it and draw a new one in a new place because there's something about it that just isn't quite working.
Totally. Anika is asking, have you participated in 36 days of type, Amber?
No, what is that?
Oh, 36 days of type is an event that is pretty much now yearly. Let me go and dig the page real quick so I can give you a little bit more detailed information. But I believe it's a duo from Spain, although I wanna double check, that created an event, which I think that it started like a small event, and it became an international theme in which they pretty much give a particular date of a calendar of a month, and then each single day you will start to from the letter A, and then you do all the entire alphabet, and you can share your work on social media. I think the biggest outlet is Instagram, where to share, but I think you can participate. Let me go ahead and read a little bit more so I can give you more correct and detailed information. You can submit your work, and of course they will feature you on their main Instagram account and on their website as well, and you will absolutely love it. So it's 36 days of 36 in number, daysoftype.com, and they will create basically a calendar in which every day is a different letter.
Oh wow, that's cool. Okay.
And it's open to all designers. It's open to all designers, illustrator, and graphic artists to express their particular interpretation of the letters and numbers of the Latin alphabet. Is a yearly open call exploring the creative boundaries of letter forms, where participants are challenged to design letters or number each single day for 36 consecutive days, as a global and simultaneous act of showing the outcome and ability to represent the same symbol in thousands of different perspectives. And I'm blindly reading from their website, but I wanted to give you correct informations.
Wow. Okay. So 36 days of type? Is that what it was?
Yes, 36 days of type. I'll send it to you through Instagram.
Yes, please.
But it's super, super cool.
Oh,
and if
thank you for
their
sharing
Instagram
that.
is, and it's true. Basically, what it was saying in the description is just ridiculously overwhelmingly beautiful to see all these different interpretations. There are so many letters, none alike. It's almost see everyone around the world personalities emerging throughout the shapes of a letter. So I think you will love that.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, that'll be good practice, especially with a lot of this logo work, because I'm still like learning as I go, but it was definitely a push for me, because I would say one thing I was noticing over the years is as designers, we tend to pick a font and type up the logo and call it a logo, or type up the name and call it a logo. And when I've done that in the past too, I've noticed that other designers that will use the same exact font, suddenly the logo doesn't feel original anymore. And so that started to bother me. And over the last several years, I've been doing much more custom typography so that the client and the brand can be much more original. And so that it won't be something where you can just type it up and recreate that exact logo with that same font.
And we had a question from Val. She said, how did you, I think it was something about the F. Yeah. How did you elongate the F elements so quickly like that? We were just, how did you do that?
I just took my direct selected this half of it, and then pushed it out, and then just like quickly grabbed some of these other points and, pull them down and up. So I'm trying to make this, because I widened the N feet, I'm trying to do that with the F as well, so that some of these nuances are still consistent with each other.
Super cool. And we got about 20 minutes, so I'm really trying to see if there is if I missed any questions in the chat, because I'm really focusing on your work myself. Question for Amber from Michelle. Have you ever worked with other alphabet type like Cyrillic?
No, I haven't. I'm not used to working in different alphabets, and I've always stuck to this.
Latin letters.
Yeah. There was a project that I had with a client in Saudi Arabia, and it's a nail salon, and their main logo is a 4, the number 4 in Arabic. So it was an Arabic 4. So I ended up redesigning their 4, or what that 4 logo was. And it was really hard because I'm not used to an Arabic 4, and I'm not used to seeing that in many different forms. And I really had to lean on the client to say, does this look normal? If I changed the weight of this area, does it still look like a 4? Because it's really hard when I'm not used to reading that 4, seeing that 4 in different forms throughout my life, to know like which ways I can push it.
And people are saying that they were looking through your profile and they say that you got very cute cats.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have more than one?
Yeah, we have 2 cats. We are definitely cat people. And so we love them. We take lots of pictures of them. Their names are Dinah and Ollie. And Dinah, she knows all sorts of tricks. I taught her how to give a high five and how to roll over, and she knows how to she knows how to stand on her hind legs and things like that. It's really cute.
She's like a cat/dog pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Because I taught
and they have their portraits.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, we have their own profiles too, which is fun.
Oh, that's so fun. And which one is the one who knows all the tricks? Is that black and white, or
Dinah, the black? Yeah, the tuxedo one. Tuxedo cats are really smart, and so she picked up on the tricks very quickly.
Don't get me started on that. I was a little bit late to our call because I was trying to put a ton of makeup on my cheeks because I just got a tuxedo kitten, and I found her before joining the live. I found her on top of a door, and she was stuck in there crying. And when I was there, she just threw herself for me. So I got like her paw, she just scratched my cheek, and I was there putting concealer, not to show it off. That's why I was a little late. But did you get them? Did you get them together? I know. Sorry, we're diverting. I'm a cat person, so please stop me.
Okay, when we got Dinah, we got her like almost 10 years ago, more like 9 years ago. She had a brother too, and I regretted not getting them together because Dinah and Ollie don't get along that well. They live with each other, and they're just like, they put up with each other, but they never cuddle together. So I kind of wish that I had that.
Do they chase each other? Because at the moment,
yes,
2 cats,
they do.
Like they go up and I was a little worried, so I'm asking like everyone who's got more than one cat. I'm like, is it normal that they chase each other, or like, am I gonna find a little, I don't want to find any horror scene at any points. I was getting just a little worried about all the basically hearing horses going through my house, and it's just two little kittens going up and down.
Yeah. It's
super cool.
It's crazy when they start chasing each other too.
Sorry, I'm just like.
So how many cats do you have?
Two. So I got Frida and Kahlo.
Oh, cute.
And
I love the names.
Yeah, I'm a super fan of Frida Kahlo. I just have here a little mask. I've done a stream not long ago inspired of Frida Kahlo, and one viewer, Rita, sent me this amazing mask and scarf with Frida Kahlo. So yeah, because I was mentioning about my little cats, Frida and Kahlo. Kahlo is the youngest one, is the baby. So I think that the name is a little bit too much for her. So I call her Kiki.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. She's trouble.
Oh my gosh.
She's a tuxedo cat, and the other one is much older. She's 9 years old, and she's very relaxed. So is definitely demanding. I would say if you live by yourself, if you're on your own, two cats that don't, very different age is very demanding. So we'll definitely consider. Omicron, yes, Frida and Kahlo.
I love that idea. So if you got a third cat, what would you name it?
Dali already, and that was the plan already. I wanted Frida and Dali, or Frida and Diego, because that's Frida husband, Diego Rivera. But she already has a little toy since she's young, so I already got the toy that it was Diego, and then ended up to be a female. So I was like, hey, Frida Kahlo, and that's it. That's how my creativity went to. But
I love that though. Yeah, my if we got a third cat, the name that I've held on to is I'm already blanking. Toulouse, because I love Toulouse-Lautrec.
Oh yeah.
And our cats' names are Disney characters too. So Dinah's from Alice in Wonderland, because we're big Disney fans. And Ollie is actually originally supposed to be Oliver, the cat from Oliver and Company, but we never call him Oliver. So he just goes by Ollie. But there was an old animator back in the day whose name is Ollie as well. So it kind of fits within like the history of Disney kind of a thing.
That's super cool.
Yeah. And then the third one would be Toulouse, because there's a cat on Aristocats named Toulouse, and I just love Toulouse-Lautrec in general. So it all comes together.
And I really think it's a cat name.
Yeah, Toulouse.
So I was trying to put some emoji in the chat. It didn't really work. So I'm not the fastest in creating emojis. But what I was gonna say, let us know if you have any pets. Looks like me and Ambers are definitely cat persons. I love.
Yeah, are there other cat people out there? Yeah.
And in general, let us know if you have any pets. Like anyone's got a horse. I think like a horse is my other big love. But yeah, let us know. We're super curious to know what if you have any little mascot in the house.
Yeah. So I'm getting closer to the end here. One thing, so as you can see, this is the original. This was what was presented to the client last week. And this is modified from that for round 2, where she wanted it to be wider letters, a little more spacing between the letters. So I did a little bit of spacing, but not too much, because I also want to hold on to my ligatures, and it might start to get a little wild if my ligatures are really wide. So I'm trying to figure out some of my kerning here, but one thing I am noticing too is as I step back, so to speak, zoom out, then I'm noticing that this T got a little heavy. So I think that part I'm just going to clean up and then call it a day for this one.
Sorry, I'm here giggling because Michelle just commented, my dog name is Joris or Horis, but we call him Harry. So.
Oh, cute.
That made me giggle. That's so nice.
It's a dog. Is that what it was?
Yes, and we have a lot of dog owners. So Omicron also has a dog. but it lives on the other side of the world. That's very interesting.
Oh.
I read two cats somewhere else. Burvales, Chihuahuas. What are the name of your Chihuahuas, Val? Very curious. Jack, 2 dogs and 2 cats. How do you manage? Like, honestly, sometimes I want to close one of the cat into a room just to have a little bit of a less of a nightmare. So how do you do with 2 cats and 2 dogs? That's such a lovely little family.
Yeah.
Oh, Reiko has 9 cats and 1 puppy, of course. And I'm here complaining about 2 cats. And Reiko is saying that most of their names are after Disney characters as well, or Star Wars.
Oh, cool. Oh, Star Wars. That's a good one too. That's really
cool.
Funny. Does anyone teach their cats and dogs tricks?
How did you do that? Like, because when you were saying all this thing, and I was like, a cat like really pays attention to you?
Yeah. Honestly, I Googled it. There's YouTube videos on how to train your cat. So I Googled, because she rings, we have a little door or like a little desk bell. And so she rings a little desk bell, like, excuse me, can service here, please?
That's so funny. There is a specific, like, does she do it when she's hungry or just whenever she wants attention?
She does it, well, a little of both, because sometimes we'll give her a treat for doing it, but then she walks away because she really just wanted attention. So she's like, well, I didn't want the treat. I just wanted you to look at me.
I was actually reading somewhere that if you, whenever you train a cat or you're trying to establish a relationship between food and human interaction, they will prefer human interaction. It's like a better, better, more satisfying thing rather than food for them. Even the most nice treats, they will still more want the human company.
Oh yeah, that's true. So yeah, this is kind of where I'm landing now with Kristin Coffin, and I'll probably come back to this in another day or two to finish up the rest of the branding presentation, but I'm just kind of leave it here. My S is still a little wonky, so I think I need to save that a little more. But I'm also trying to make sure that the stacked version looks good together because I want my I and N to line up perfectly, which is such a nerdy designer thing to do, but they have to line up or it'll drive me crazy. So
yes, and if at some point you would like to tell us again about the brand and the products, and I think someone asked about the presentation, what you showed at the beginning. I think that's a fantastic moment to sort of have a little bit of a look through that.
Yeah,
for those of you that just join us.
This was what was presented last week to the client. So this was the logo that she really liked, and the feedback was to make it wider. So this is where it's headed. I might still work on it a little more because I'm noticing some little nuances that I still want to perfect, but it started here, and I'll also redo the monogram with this new C and K as well. So I'll have to remember to pull that aside and basically do a newer version so that it also feels just as wide as the original logo. So I'll work on that, but these were all the secondary marks too. We were talking about responsive logo, of, having something that's really big for bigger moments or opportunities where you can have the full lockup all the way down to the smallest version. That this would potentially be a favicon that would really only show up at like 16 by 16 pixels. So I wanted to make sure I created a version that was as simple as that. Bringing in textures that fits with the color palette. And these are actually just very detailed images of rocks and rock work. And and thinking about how to utilize those. Maybe it'd be like a bar of color or bringing it in subtly here or there. And some of the main colors are being gold, since it is jewelry, and pulled in some inspiration imagery too. This isn't one of her rings, but I kind of liked the idea of how golden this image is, and kind of seeing a little bit of the reflection of the ring. And we've been talking a lot about light, bringing a lot of light into her photography. So this is another inspiration image, bringing it all together with texture, maybe even an oval shape, since this idea of oval is kind of being repeated throughout the brand with the monogram, and with some of her ring and diamond shapes. And then even bringing in secondary typography to show what that would look like compared to the logo as well. And here you can see that really small monogram for her Instagram.
Super cool. And we have a few questions. So first of all, everyone is loving it. And
Good.
Omicron saying so pretty. Jenna is asking, how many options do you give a client? And Amanda on the same line, did she just get one option?
I usually do 3 options. So she saw a few other options, but I think it was very clear that this was the one. And sometimes the other options are simpler versions or things like that. So I usually do anywhere from 2 to 3 options to start. And yeah.
But you just kind of give it a hint of a direction to the one that you know that is the good one already.
Yeah. Like, yeah. Exactly.
That's what I do as well. I usually do like, yeah, we got this one and we got this one. Then we go really try to drive attention, because I think is better for us as well to work on something that which we believe in and that we enjoy.
Well, actually, sometimes I put the best one first, because that's like the wow factor, and the one that they go back to again and again after you review the others, then their mind keeps thinking of that first one. So I think strategically, sometimes putting the one that you really want them to choose first is really smart. I also sometimes clients ask for one thing, so I give them that thing, but while also creating a different version or something new that they didn't ask for. And so that was this case too, where she had asked for one thing, and I gave her that as an option. But then as I was working on this one, I was like, but we also have this one, which is I think even more the direction that she wanted. And so once she saw this, then she felt it fit her really well.
Absolutely. And I mean, you can see why everyone is loving how this is coming out.
Yeah. So I think I'll put a pause on this one for now. And Perfect. We can dive into another project.
So Amber, we got pretty much 1 minute left before the artist spotlight. So maybe...
Oh yeah, let's do that first.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to take 10 minutes to talk real quick about this Illustrator Conquest, which is this new project. So if we can move into my screen, we'll be able to have a little look about these new experience that I've created with the amazing Illustrator team at Adobe. Is a game to teach you how to use Illustrator and the most basic tools. So I'm going to paste the link in the chat as well, and I'm going to share it with Vuduval so we can actually you can have a clickable link. But this is an experience of a little space traveler called Piper, and she's traveling and she's lost in space, and she gets lost in Planet Illustrator. So once you head on the website and you get started, you have this first video which will tell you a little bit more about the experience. And as you can see, we got little Piper here and all the aliens that are part of the Illustrator planet. And in the introductory video, you're going to be able to see that Piper is there sharing with you all the different tools. And then at some point throughout each different mission, Piper is going to point you out to a tool. And the videos are actually clickable. So in the videos, you're going to be able to click on the little icon. And let's see if I can actually do it right now from mission number 1. Once you click on the video, the most important thing is that you have already opened Illustrator. And from Illustrator, you will have an artboard that opens up with all this instruction to complete this first mission. And the entire goal will be to help Piper to finalize all the missions so she can come back to her. And she's going to be there with you throughout the little space experiment. That's when she's traveling and heading into space. But let's head to the actual game. So once you click on get started, you will see that the very first experience will be to create Piper's initial, which is the letter P, of course, using the pencil tool and the width tool that we've been using today with Amber as well. So we're going to learn how to draw, and let's see if I can show you real quick here. Of course, you have all the instruction coming through the video, but the most important part is that once, let me skip it through so we can see when we have this little icon here on the top, is actually going to launch a file that is in Illustrator. All you have to do is to make sure that you click on open the Creative Cloud desktop. So it will be downloaded inside your document. And here it is. That's actually an Illustrator file that you can open directly from the video with some instruction for you to learn all the most important tools that are part of the Illustrator workspace. So you learn how to use the pencil tool, the pen tool, and you can go really in details. And once you're done, all you have to do is to come back to the video. And from there, you can keep watching the video until you're done with this mission, and you can move on to the second missions. So in total, there are, I believe, 6 different missions. And each video is about 5 minutes long. Each activity is a couple minutes long. So you can literally get it done in a day, or maybe split it into a day if you want to. But there is little Piper there, and it was a very, very much fun to create this project. Super exciting. I was very honored to participate, and I want to give a shout out also to Stina Jones, which is an illustrator here based in Manchester, who helped me to roll out all the illustrations after I designed the first version of Piper. So that's it. That's the project. I'm going to share it after the artist spotlight, which is now due. I can see our timer running out. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that little space mission with Illustrator. And the amazing artist that we are featuring today is Francine Thompson, a graphic designer student based in Minneapolis. And we can see some of her work here on her Behance page. Make sure to go and give her a follow. Her Behance page is behance.net/Francine A. Thompson. And I'm happy to review any of her work. Amber, we can also jump into her website because I've seen that there is so much more work in there as well. Also some very nice type through our website. But let's start from her Behance. Do you have any, first of all, can you see that the same page that I'm seeing? And if you're not there yet, don't worry. We can take a second, and in the meantime, we can have a look perhaps at the very first one, because I know that you probably are going to like this first project with that, because I saw some very nice type. So feel free to give any feedback more in terms of what you like about the project. We are here to celebrate everybody's work. So we're here today to celebrate Francine work. She's here featured in the spotlight. And there is any of these particular type work that she's created that talks to you, or let us know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that I really love about her work too is she's really, really good with typography. And I think that's one thing that always stands out to me about designers is how good they are with typography, how well they understand typography. And that's always been a standout to me for her, because I've actually followed her for a few years now, and I love her use of typography. So This project is really cool with the word marks. And then she also has another project on Behance we could even dive into.
Absolutely. Sorry, I was just trying to get the link of the other project. I'm going to share as soon as we finish the spotlights. Hang on tight. I'm just a little bit confused here with the different screens. So don't worry, hang on, Val, Jack, I will definitely share the links, but let's focus on Francine for this time, and then I'll be able to share it. Which project did you want to see, Amber?
Yeah, this Aura Beauty one is
Yes.
pretty impressive.
Let's have a look.
I love the packaging design, the shapes, the accent colors, the logo. All of it just really comes together, and I love seeing the full brand in here too. There's color and really fun use of typography, and yeah, and then seeing it in context with imagery really like makes it feel very high end and very sophisticated, but also playful and modern. So I love seeing stuff like that.
I think she's done an amazing job in, oh my, look at the corner shop. That's so exciting. Like it's literally you enter into the jungle. And what I can see throughout the imagery, so in the packaging, in the photo, in the pretty much throughout, even the actual photo themselves, there is this huge contrast between the black and white and a darker theme that you can even see in the wall. And then the color, I think it really makes it a feature, which in this case is, of course, the fruit and the natural elements of the product. It really comes through and pops out against these darker areas. Although she also managed to bring light with the white, so we have this neutral black and white almost background that embodies the entire brand. And then we have the actual active ingredient that are there infused with the colors that really create an accent. So I completely agree. The photography also brings it out. Such a complete display of the work as well, and what a bright palette. I love that she called the palette with the actual like ingredients. So we got lime, mandarin, pear, papaya,
all the flavors. And like as you're pointing out, once you bring that fruit in, you can tell that the design was very reflective of like this fruit accent color against these bold shapes.
And I think it really brings in, because of course they are hair products. So, usually when you think about any sort of like products that it comes in a bottle is usually like chemical. And I think that it really brings in the natural elements of the product itself, because it really makes the organic element stands out with the colors and also with the photography and with the contrast between the black and white. So I think that was an amazing concept to really bring this the vibrancy of nature throughout the brand. Fantastic work, Francine. Very well done. And let's have a look at this other someplace food, more colors.
Yeah, this one's really fun too. I love that someplace typography. It's very quirky and makes me think of wood type too.
Oh yeah, because it's got a little bit of undefined edge.
Yeah, and like the thicks and thins of it feel very hand done.
Super cool and beautiful use of colors. Definitely. I love the palettes that she picks, because you can see a little bit of I cannot think of the pastels. You can see pastel tones, but then there is a hit of brightness. I think it was the same with the other one. So you get some more palettes tints, and then you got like this pink magenta in here. I think the other one was like a very bright orange, like so it doesn't become too flat. It's still
they're very unique colors.
And again, we can see many applications, and it doesn't even look like a mock-up. It looks like a real photo shoot here, someplace away. I cannot wait to go someplace away at some point. Same. And travel again. Very well done, Francine. I love the way also that she created these stamps, like I don't know if you can see the rounded, take me someplace, take me India, take me Greece. Love the flexibility of using the actual brand. And also the business card is almost like as if it's like the stamp on the passport, on the business card behind their name, or his name, the owner, Elliot. Super cool. Very well done. Just want to be mindful of the time because I know that you wanted to show more. I'm gonna just show real quick. So those are the projects that we can see on Francine Behance. Of course, from Behance, you have the opportunity to click on francineathompson.com, which is our website. And from here, you can see that's just the work that we just overviewed right now, the Someplace brand. But of course, you have more opportunity to dig in through our work. Very nice typography in our website as well. Mm-hmm. We have some. Oh, I love this little toothpaste packaging.
Yeah, it's so fun. All in one little container.
And then there is more in the gallery. So beautiful. I really love this Julia. That G is super nice.
Very fun G.
Got a bit of illustration, animation. Francine, very well done. Very, very exciting. I'm definitely gonna bookmark this website.
Yeah.
Super. I love the display with the images. That I think they remind me a little bit of your display. You had some images showcasing.
It's fun to just kind of to organically just toss images down as if it was analog and not so digital.
Yeah, it's almost like as if you got paper on a table, isn't it?
Yeah, kind of mood board-esque.
Super cool. We absolutely love your work, Francine. Don't forget to go on Behance at behance.net/Francine A. Thompson to give it a follow. I'm going to give her a follow myself. Here we go. And fantastic. I think that we can go back on your screen, Amber, whenever you're ready. And we can start on the second part that you wanted to go over. And in the meantime, I'm going to share the link, as I promised, into the chat and also on Discord for the Illustrator Conquest project. And
okay, cool.
In the meantime, just before we leave, we want to just give a shout out, since I'm here, to your studio Instagram. So if you want to see more of Amber work, since we were giving a shout out to Francine, make sure to head on Instagram.com/nicepeople, and you can see all the amazing work that Amber and her amazing team have produced.
So I know we don't have a ton of time, but this is another project I'm going to dive into, and I can just kind of show some of the beginning stages of this one. So this is for another client. This is called the Buy Guide, and they specialize in creating all sorts of gift guides or product suggestions. A lot of people look to them for suggestions in fashion, beauty, even home goods, and just all sorts of gifts for different events and celebrations. And so the Buy Guide this is the logo that they came with. And the thing about this logo is kind of what I was saying before, is it's clearly something that is typed in an existing font. And in fact, I even know what font it is. And so that's the thing about typography, or about creating logos, is if it's identifiable as a logo or as a font, and if you can figure out what font it is, then it's not something that's a whole lot original for that brand or for that client. And we want to create something as designers that's very original. Otherwise, people can use the same font or do the same thing. So for example, this is the font of their existing logo. If some other brand out there decided they wanted a similar logo or font, and they were going to call themselves Gift Guide, then essentially the logo that they would have could look exactly the same. So that's the goal here, is to step outside when we're creating word marks, step away from existing fonts and use them as inspiration, but trying to create something that's completely original and new for the brand. So
I love the last font.
Oh yeah. So this is kind of a glance into the early stages of creating a word mark. I've done a lot of research, Pinteresting, kind of gathered a bunch of really cool B's and G's, because I think that'll be something that we can make really ownable with this brand. And yeah, just kind of making my artboard messy, figuring out, exploring, and even grabbing a bunch of existing fonts to look at the nuances of all of these letters and to figure out, where do I want to go with these letter forms? How do I want to bring it all together? So one thing that I'm thinking of doing is I want to create a sans serif one. So I have a whole row of sans serif versions. And then I also want to create more of a serif version, and possibly something that is even a little more like a slab serif. So it won't be so high end, but it'll feel a little more approachable. So that's the goal for the brand, is to create something that feels very approachable, very friendly, but also a little more high end and trustworthy. So that's where I'm going to start. These a couple of things that I screenshotted. I love this G, and this was from a font called Garten. But that G really stood out to me. I'm not going to do the rest of these letter forms because this isn't really the direction I was planning to go, but the G stood out to me. So I think I want to do something like that for the G. But then I also love the idea of a double story G. So we've got, I don't know where that term came from, but we have two circles for a double story G. And it isn't this normal G where it has just this half circle descender. This one's kind of a cool glance into the shapes that were created for this G in particular. So with all that said, I'm going to go ahead and get started. And what I end up doing is similar to how we were kind of going over yesterday. I start with very simple shapes. And that's usually where it all starts from, is a rectangle or a circle. And then using those building blocks from there. Yesterday, we were actually doing a lot more uppercase stuff. And so today we're actually going to be, I'm kind of diving into more of these lowercase forms. I'm going to create my H, getting this half circle from a stroke, and basically starting to build the building blocks of this brand. I'm going to create my E.
And Amber, just to give you a gentle reminder that we are towards the end of these two amazing 2 days of streaming together. So, feel free to go as far as you want, but probably be nice to have a little bit of a recap of the amazing work that you've done in, like, I'll say probably 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, that sounds good. So for this E, I'm kind of taking this circle and basically using my Pathfinder to divide it. And then building the rest of it, building in this crossbar into it as well. And I think the fun thing about an E is you could also tilt it too. So that might be something I might explore here. And I've noticed that with other references that I've pulled in, even on the serifs, where they kind of do a little bit of a tilt with some of these. And so I think that doing kind of an angled crossbar could be really fun. And then I might jump ahead and do my G too. Something that could be fun about a G is if I am doing these shapes, I might create more of a circle ear for the actual, that part of the G. But then if I do a double story G, there's all sorts of things that we could do here. We could explore having a smaller version where it's more offset. Maybe if we even did like centering it, or we can even half circle it, just removing that part and scaling it up. Or if we took this off-centered one, another thing that we could do is putting a bar in there to connect the circles.
Oh, that's so fun.
So yeah, I think sometimes it's about exploring and just creating a ton of versions that we can do. Maybe I'll even make this one more of an oval. And the nice thing about using a dot is now maybe I'll use this dot for the actual eye. And I could even use this dot for like the Y too. So if I wanted to create a Y where we have like our two Y shapes, and then maybe the lower part of that Y ends up being a circle.
This is so playful.
So yeah, I mean, I think we could just get really fun with this at the beginning too. And then as I go into a lot of this, I think the fun part about once we have our strokes and expanding them, you can have even more fun with uniting them and then actually bringing more curves into play. So if we don't want that monolinear look, we can start to curve some of this stuff, or maybe even before I curve it, maybe what I actually want to do is add even more of a weight to this so it's not so monolinear. So maybe I want the neck to be a little thicker at the beginning, and then combine some of these, and then I can go in and bring those curves into this neck part. So yeah, there's a lot of exploring that's usually done at the beginning before we get to what we were doing earlier with the Kristin Coffin, where we're modifying and tweaking. So sometimes the early part is pretty fun because then you get to explore, especially focusing on some of the letters that you really want to bring a lot of character to. So sometimes I'll explore those letters first. So I might actually continue exploring G's, uppercase G's. Same with the B's. I'll continue exploring more B's, and then build out the rest of the letters to match and fit kind of the framework of those.
Fantastic, Amber. So unfortunately, it's almost time to say goodbye. I wanted to say real quick that Vuduval has pasted the link for the Illustrator Conquest game in the chat. So make sure to go and check that out. You can find it there. And do you want to do like a very quick list visual of what we've done yesterday and what we've done today? We've got literally 1 minute and a half. So if you can just show us today's logo and yesterday logo. And I just want to remind everybody that, of course, after this stream, there is more Adobe Live. So don't forget to stay tuned, and you can stay just below us, all the other streams that are coming after us. And this stream is going to be available on replay as well.
Yeah. And you can keep an eye out for the completion of these brands too, because these are real projects with real clients. And so today we went over this jewelry brand, round 2 from the round 1 logo that was already presented, now making a much wider version of the logo. And yesterday we had these 2 versions of this camp logo for a client that will be really exciting to see in front of their store, their existing store in LA. And then I'll continue on my own doing this buy guide stuff and exploring this. So keep an eye out because you might see this in the future too. So
please post it on your Instagram. I'm going to be super curious to see the final product of those. But of course, thank you so much, Amber. I had an absolute blast having this stream with you. I really, really appreciated your work, and I'm sure everyone in chat did as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. This was fun.
And thank you, everybody in the chat, for being here with us. And it's an absolutely pleasure, as usual, to be here in Adobe Live. As I said, go and grab a glass of water and stay tuned, because there is more Adobe Live here with our Pinsky. So stay tuned here on Adobe Live for more fun. Thank you so much, everybody, for this wonderful stream. I will see you soon. Bye.
Bye.